Hello and welcome to another video from me, Steve, and we're going to be doing, it's going to be a short review on this machine today, and afterwards I'm going to be doing the daily clean with the same machine. Now it's only recurred to me today that although I've done reviews on Turbopower 2s before on this channel, I hadn't actually done one on this particular machine, and I've been having a few comments on the channel from the VAC Matt, who has started putting videos on his channel again. He's only young, but he's into the refurbing the machines, and he's been putting a fair few comments on on the videos. And I happened to have a look at his channel the other day, and he'd done a refurbishment thread on a Hoover Turbopower 2, very much the same as this one. In fact, it's exactly the same model as this. It's the U2462, and this Turbopower was one of the earlier Turbopower 2s. I did one a couple of days ago on one of the very late model ones, which was that light blue coloured one. But today we're going to be looking at this older one, which is from the early to mid 90s. We'll have a look at the stock label shortly, see exactly where it was from. But the VAC Matt, as I say, he'd done a refurbishment. He bought it for a £5, I think it was, from a car boot sale, and brought it back in a right state, as they normally are when you buy them from a car boot sale. And he'd done a reasonably good job of shining it all up and getting it up and running again. But I did have to say that if you want a brush roll for one of these, then you're going to be looking for a long time, because they're virtually impossible to get hold of. Brush rolls for these are pretty much now obsolete. You can't find them for love nor money. One might crop up from now and again on eBay, but when I tried getting one for these, I couldn't. So unfortunately, whilst you can still get them for the Turbopower 1, you can't get them for the Turbopower 2, which is rather a shame really, because some of these have got knackered brush rolls, and unless you're very lucky and I've got one that you can donate for it or find a scrapping machine, then unfortunately it's like all other old cleaners now. If you can't get parts from it, it's a case of having to buy another one with a reasonable brush roll and change it over, if you know what I mean. It's very sad. But some of these are now getting to the age now where you finding parts from is more difficult. And yet I remember buying one of these brand new, you know, in the 90s, and it doesn't seem like yesterday really. So the Turbopower 2, just a quick history with it again. I know I've been through this before on other videos, but they started out life back in 1992. The very earliest models look very similar to this, except they had a piston bag indicator on the door here and no bag full light there. This was basically the base model in the range. There were higher models than this. This hadn't got the fancy autosense on. It had just simply got a bag full light there, and we'll be showing you all that just shortly. So shall we get the camera off and we'll have a close-up look at it. Right, so this, as I say, is the first type of Turbopower 2 from the early to mid 90s. When they first launched, as I say, they had a bag full indicator just here on the middle of the bag door. But on later models, in fact, that wasn't carried on for very long before they discontinued that type, and they put the bag full light at the top here. So on the top of the handle, once again, we have the old lost Hoover roundel syndrome, which seems to affect so many older cleaners and newer ones. They drop off on the newer ones as well. Going around the back here, we have the cable. You just turn it round into the light, and it's not the longest cable on this. I think it's only about a 6.5–7 metre one. So it's a case of constantly having to keep replugging in every machine you're going in. The hose, very much the same as the blue one I did the other night, was the narrow bore, early model hose. But what I did say about that model was that it didn't have any kind of crevice tool on, whereas this model, being one of the early ones, had a scabbard type of crevice tool just inside here, like so. And it was quite a long one, quite a thin one, and that fitted into the extension rod there, so it pushed into the end and then stored on the back of the machine. like so. And then the early models, before the Turbopower 3 came out, had another crevice tool. So they had a shorter one here, built onto the side there. But like I say, that was discontinued on the Turbopower 3 because it used a wider bore hose, and because the hose was wider bore, that wouldn't have been able to fit in because the hose took up more space on the back here. So they had to have a little bit of a rethink of the caddy on the back of the machines. Going lower down, we have got the Turbopower 2 upholstery tool here, which was the same as the one I showed the other night, except this one has the lint lifter on the front, which is what the other one didn't have. I think they were trying to cheapen everything by that stage. And then we had crevice tool, dusting brush here. The dusting brush is a little bit worn on this. Now, as with a lot of people, the dusting brush is my favourite tool on a vacuum cleaner. It's the one I use most. So when you buy a vacuum, it's very, very often that you'll find the dusting brushes are the most dog-eared because they tend to get used the most. And this one's no exception. I did clean it and got all the fluff out, put it in some hot water, but unfortunately that wouldn't even bring it back to life. So it'll do for the daily clean today as well. So, and I've just knocked my head on it now because it's just fallen back on me, trying to push that back in with one hand, and sometimes that's a bit tricky. There we go. So you've got the foot pedal here on the bottom, like I showed the other night. It's better than on the Pure Power, but obviously it took a lot of less effort to press it to recline the back. Going down here, what have we got? The stock label. Come on, focus on that. So there we go, it's a U2462 and it's an 800 watt machine. Isn't it strange how we've gone full circle with power on vacuum cleaners? In that in the olden days and in the early 90s here, all the cleaners used to be around this sort of wattage, the 800 to 1000 watt wattage. And now the EU has forced everyone to come right back down to that again. And today's vacuum cleaners, like those over there, one of them's a 700 watt on the right, and the one on the left, the cylinder's an 800 watt. So basically, we've come all the way around and back to the 800 watts again that we used to use back in the olden days. The year of manufacture on this one is U2462, and it's 401. So it's January 1994. So this one's quite an early model. But as I say, they did come out in late 92, so it's maybe on the second year into production on these then. So, and it was made in England, this one, rather than being made in China. Unfortunately, that's the way things have gone these days. It's all made in China now, but back then it was made in good old United Kingdom. And there's the very thin wheels on the back, which were quite wobbly on some of these, to say the least, when they got a little bit worn. I think one of the collectors, I've heard them calling them the digestive biscuit wheels, which I thought was rather appropriate because they do look like digestive biscuits actually. Yeah, could have been Dorian, that could, I'm not sure. Or was it, oh, it might have been somebody else, I can't remember who it was now that said it. Right, on the front here we've got the usual Turbopower 2 logo there, and on the earlier models it was at the edge. In the middle, later ones it was in the middle there, in the middle of the front of the hood. It says edge cleaning here on both sides, in that less tacky writing than it did on the 2000 model. There you've got your height positions, the badge of Madge. I've already talked about that. That's where the bag full indicator would have been originally. And you had your on-off switch here. On the higher models in the range, instead of that light, you'd have had another button here for the high power, which was on the autosense, and then the other one would have had the 3 autosense lights there. But this, as it was the base model, just got one light. And the late models didn't even have this on. They removed the bag full light from the budget models at the very end of the run. So there's the bag door, there's the latch on the top. It opens down, as so. And we have the aftermarket bag in here because that's what I've bought for them. I suppose we're going to be doing big bests tests with these in due course, so I don't really want to use an expensive bags to do anything like that with. And it just, as on other models, latches off the back and pulls off the front. to reveal the pre-motor filter there, which I had to make up from a, I think that was a Miele filter if the truth were known. That's what I tend to use. I just pull one of the Miele filters out of the boxes of bags and cut it up to go in these, because the original filters would have perished and they all fell to bits and powdered away. They didn't last very well, unfortunately. They didn't stand the test of time, and they crumbled away. So I had to put my own pre-motor filter in. And engage the bag back down there again and push it back till it clicks. So there's the bag. I'm being a little bit quicker on this one because, as I say, I have done reviews on these before, and just in case anyone hasn't seen them, I like to do another quick looking over just in case. So down at the bottom here we've got the exhaust filter, and that just simply lifts out like so. And again, in here, well, you can see it's a Miele filter basically that I chopped in two, and I might have trouble getting this in now without being able to have two hands. But yeah, I did cut a Miele exhaust filter. You can just see the M from the Miele on there, because the one that this had in wasn't any good and it was all clogged up. There was a foam filter. You can actually see the motor through there, but there was a black foam filter on that originally, but again that had degraded so badly that I had to remove it altogether. Because when I have these, I literally take them right to pieces, get the motor out, service the motor, clean all the inside out, and very often you'd find that this filter in here was either clogged up or it literally was just falling to bits, because it wasn't a user serviceable filter, the one on the other side of that grill there. It was more for noise reduction really, I think, and to add a little bit more to the it removed some more of the carbon dust from the motor that emitted. So I'll just put the camera down here while I put the exhaust filter back on. And this would have originally had an air filter in, but it hasn't got one now. I think, yeah, that's clicked in. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, there's a little slot in here for the Hoover air freshener to go in, and it used to emit a scent as the machine went along. But unfortunately, I can't get hold of them now. So I didn't really like the scent they used to give off anyway. In the truth, if all the truth were known, that filter doesn't look very wonderful on there, but it's the best I can do at the moment. I'll have to sort something else out for it in due course. Let's turn it over and have a look at the bottom. So as I say, I've had a look at everything else on the machine now, so we'll just stand the camera down here while I turn it over. I'm being careful not to get the plug underneath and scratching it. Right, so I'm sure everybody has seen what the underside of a Turbopower 2 looks like by now, and if you haven't, then you can't be a true vacuum collector. But these are a staple of just about every single vacuum collector's collection. Everybody has a Turbopower 2. Somewhere along the line they'll have one of these. They are such a popular machine with collectors, these are. So you've got your undercarriage wheels here, which were nice and wide. They didn't sink into the pile, unlike some other machines that I've reviewed just lately. You've got your rear wheels there, which were quite narrow, and they did get a little bit wobbly when they get a bit worn, those two. But it still goes round okay. And then the very hard to get hold of brush roll here, which was called the Activator, and this one here, fortunately for me, is still in reasonably good condition. Occasionally you'll get one that's absolutely knackered, and unfortunately, as I said before, unless you can find another one somewhere, you're a bit stuffed really. So my suggestion really would be to look out for another one on eBay, another machine that isn't in very good nick but might have a decent brush roll in the bottom, what would otherwise be known as a donor machine, and then you could pinch the brush roll out of it. That's all part of the fun really of old machines. Sometimes you'll buy one and you won't be able to get it working for several months because you're hunting around for parts to get it to work. And there you see the edge brushing bristles on the side there in green. So really these weren't a bad brush roll, but the big problem with these that I do find is they tend to stretch the drive belts very, very quickly. I've had one on here when I first bought it, and because I never used to bother removing the belts off when they were in storage, the next time I came down to use it a couple of years later, the drive belt was so stretched again that it wouldn't drive this on carpet. As soon as you put it down on the carpet, the brush roll stopped going round. So I had to find another belt for it. And these aftermarket belts that you can get from Qualtex or Electropart, I mean, they're just not very good. They're all right for the time being to get you out of trouble, but they're not very long lasting, and they stretch a lot easier than the original Hoover belts would have done. So there we have the blockage clean out section here. That's where the suction went up. From there it went up that tube there, and then through a little pipe in the side of here, and then it came round through the hinge into the hose, came round the top of the hose, and then up into the bag here. So it was quite a long air path on one of these for 800 watts. And I'm sure that Vac Lab and vacuum tests would both tell you that the more ends and bends and crevices and the longer the air path is with turns and complex cyclones, the worse the airflow is going to be. So they needed a good agitator really to get the dirt loosened up in the carpets. So there we go. Let's have a quick look here. What I'll do is just for this video I will plug the machine in and start it up so we can hear it working, and then I'll end this video and then I'll run straight onto the daily clean video with it, and we'll go around the downstairs of the house and do the sofa with the brush and the dusting, and in the kitchen there as well. And I'm going to have to get the mealer out in order to go and do the bathroom floor, because unfortunately for these they aren't any good on my hard floors. I did do some damage with an upright with a brush roll that wouldn't turn off, and it's damaged my lino in the bathroom, so I can't use these type on hard floor. So we'll just do, in the daily clean, as I say, we'll do the carpets down here. I did the stairs the other day with the Dyson there, and we'll have to do another daily clean with one of them soon as well, because I'm trying to be extensively testing those at the moment. But it would get a little bit boring though, wouldn't it, if I kept doing daily cleans every day with them? You know, and you'd think, oh god, another daily clean with the Dyson. So we like to have a little bit of variety on the channel, so that I've got something different to show other than the same old machine over and over again. Right, let's just put this here while I plug it in and we can hear it running. And I'm not sure whether it was a 6 metre on this. I'll soon be able to tell on the daily clean video, because I know exactly how far 6 metres stretches to when it's plugged in. It looks like a 6 metre. Six metres normally goes over to the doorway here. Yes, it's about a 6 metre cable, that is, because that's pretty much fully stretched from that plug hole in the middle of the room. So, I wanted to find out as well if that Hoover would drive one of these turbo brushes, because I was just interested to see if the 800 watt motor on one of these, whilst a Dyson being 700 watts would drive one of these nowadays, would one of those type. So I'm just going to try that as well. So we'll turn it on. Slippery. it actually does drive that turbo brush. It doesn't drive it stupidly fast, but it drives it quick enough to be able to use it on the sofa there. And so therefore, when we do the daily clean, I will put the turbo brush on and we will do the sofa with it, because the cat's been on here again and there's more cat hairs on, despite the fact I only cleaned that the other day. So she's very generously donated some cat fur for the sake of the channel and all these demonstrations. What would I do without my cat? Well, there we go. It's running just fine. As I say, I did have to put another belt on it the other week when I had it down and tested it out. And unfortunately, well, you know, these things happen. So I know now when they're stored upstairs, as soon as this is finished with today, I have to whip the bottom off and take the drive belt off again before it goes back upstairs. And then my drive belts should last me a little bit longer than what they have been doing. Because when you've got a lot of uprights up there, it tends to get rather expensive on drive belts when for every time you need to bring one down, the drive belt's no good anymore. So let's just put that hose back on the back. And I'll leave it out, as I say. I'll end this video here, and we will see you again very shortly when we'll do the daily clean. So, bye for now.